Welcome to today's webinar, brought to you by Principal Investigators Association. Today's program is entitled Grants Management Effort Reporting from A to Z. This is a 60-minute program. At this time, all participants are in listen-only mode. Later, we will be conducting a live question and answer session, and instructions on how to participate will follow at that time. It is my pleasure to introduce your speaker for today, Dr. Michael Lesiecki. Michael Lesiecki, PhD, is the principal investigator for a large grant from the National Science Foundation's Advanced Technological Education Program. He has 27 peer-reviewed journal publications and 1 patent. He received his PhD in physical chemistry from Oregon State University. He was a research professor at the University of Utah and an associate professor at the University of Puerto Rico. At Exxon Research and Engineering, Dr. Lesiecki worked as a senior scientist, and at Candela Laser Corporation, he was the director of the Bioscience Division. He has authored successful NIH small business innovation research proposals at Candela. Dr. Lesiecki currently serves on proposal review committee for the NSF, Department of Education, and for the Department of Labor. And now let's get started. Welcome, Dr. Michael Lesiecki.
Well, thanks very much. It's my pleasure to be here today, and thank you for that kind introduction. As you mentioned, I've had the privilege both to be a PI and a reviewer, and as many of us know, that reviewer gives an interesting slant on the development of grants. But over the years, I've become more interested in grant management because I think there's opportunities to increase the efficiency of what we do and to be more productive by paying more attention to the grant management side as well. As you mentioned, I have a technical background in chemistry. I think chemistry is the best thing in the world, but that's a whole nother discussion. So let's get started today. Now, this is a series of 5 webinars, and all of them start in this following way. We're excited the proposal has just become a funded grant. We've gotten a letter from the agency, and we are excited to get on with the work. But in addition to the scientific endeavor that all of us are interested in, we're responsible, that is the PI, bears the responsibility for the overall management of the project. Well, what are those responsibilities, and how's a PI supposed to know what those responsibilities are? Importantly, let's think about this. What can a PI do at the beginning to ensure a smooth running project, right from the beginning? And fast forwarding to the end, what can we do to set up in place to ensure a clean closeout? On the third bullet, inevitably there's going to be adjustments or corrections for errors that may come up in spending, or there may be client compliance-related issues. How do we do that? How do we handle that? And finally, what should the PI do? What should his or her research team do when the auditor comes? So that's an important thing to think about and to prepare ourselves for. This series focuses on 5 major topics, and as we scoped out these topics, we used our knowledge, our background as PIs, as grants managers, and we looked carefully at what the agencies consider the major issues associated with grants management. So number 1, that's today, effort reporting, with a focus on certification and talking about the complicated issues sometimes of summer salaries. Number 2, the next one in the series, focuses on costs and finances. Number 3, monitoring issues with big emphasis on subawards there. It's such a big thing, whether you've got a subaward or whether you're issuing a subaward. Number 4, reporting and revisions. That's just something that we have to deal with, and there's some good things about it and some more difficult things about that topic. And then finally, compliance. That's a PI responsibility. Where do we comply? How do we comply? Those things are part of the series. So that's the scope of the series, and number 1 today on effort reporting. What's the point of view? As you're listening to this webinar, who is it that's speaking? What is their point of view? What is their background? Well, we're trying to paint the perspective from the PI standpoint and, of course, their research team. So the PI is the focus of this. Yes, there are internal offices of sponsored research at major institutions, and the collaboration with them is critical. But the point of view in this series is the PI. So let's think about how we frame this issue. Well, one approach is to start, surprisingly, with audit findings. And that's a way of, I think, of focusing our attention. If you look at this pie chart, look at the top three. I'm reading on the upper right here now. Policies and procedures, inadequate or absent. So policies are a big one. Lack of source documentation to support costs. And the third biggest one, inadequate system to track, manage, or account for those costs or assets. And then there's a whole slew, as you can see, of smaller percentages here in this chart. But one approach to our discussion today is to think about where are the flags, where are the important things that we should pay our attention to. So there's our snapshot of audit findings. And you can see on one of these slides, I'll put my sources down there. You can see the source from the NSF, the OIG. That's the Office of Inspector General, and more about acronyms in a few minutes. So what's the outcomes? You know, where do we want to be at the end of this series? I think success for us would be an idea in our minds, a good grasp of what successful grant project management looks like. I mean, that's the objective. I think it's a good one. And number two, just as important, I'm hoping this series will catalyze discussions with PIs and their teams and their office for sponsored programs. They may go by a different name depending on the institution. But that's the intent, is to catalyze that discussion. I gained a lot by working together with our internal offices, and I think many people can realize those same benefits. Now, of course, here's the disclaimer, right? As much as my experience is from this as a PI, I'm not the ultimate authority on all the rules and regulations. We'll try to point you to where those rules reside and how to get all of the details there. So my perspective is then from the PI, not some super expert up in the sky. So what are the issues? Now we're talking about effort reporting, that's today, right? So what are some of the issues? How do we frame this? Well, about a third of NSF, and I'm just using them as an example, they go to salary and wages. That wouldn't surprise any of us. A lot of our grants that were